My mom told me not to talk to strangers on the internet, but I'm glad I didn't listen. We are the Certified Noonas, your sisters in the love of Asian entertainment.
Hi, I'm Jessie.
I'm Natalia.
And I'm Sky.
And it's the Hit List. It's back. It's been a little while since we've been able to do a Hit List episode.
Yes.
Because Jessie was busy at work for so many months. But...
Not now.
Not for the next little while.
It's a perfect time for it to come back, too.
I know. So we're here because the Hit List, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is the thriller horror arm of the Noonas, where we
the scary dark arm.
Yeah, where we do the more spine tingly things, or sometimes, in the case of one episode about a show from 1993, the more absurd part. And if you're wondering about that, you should check out our episode on the show, because it is
definitely should.
Especially
because it's coming back. They announced like a month or so ago that it's coming back for real. So
it was you guys' podcast powers that caused
that we did. Yeah. We brought
thanks.
We brought the joy of M back into people's lives. Joy is a loose term we're using right now.
That one podcast talked about it. It must
be popular. That one English language podcast.
They saw our little drama that could.
Yeah. But no, we're not talking about M today. We've exhausted that pool. But instead, there was a movie that came out in February, but recently hit streaming services, specifically the Shudder streaming service. And also, it's on Viki for pay-per-view, but like we watched it on Shudder because it's just on Shudder.
I'm already watching things on Shudder, so
you can just watch
there's no additional fee.
No additional fee on Shudder. Well, there is like the subscription. Listen, you know how subscription.
Yeah, but additional like to what I'm already there. Like,
there's no pay-per-view fee for it. And that is the film Exhuma, the exorcism style. It's it's exorcism. It's, because like in the West, when you think of exorcism, it immediately goes Catholic Church. And we have had those fun, like, the Divine Fury, it's very fun. We had a good time with it. But, like, this is strictly shamanism.
Absolutely.
And it was very cool. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we will probably be delving into the spoiler territories. So if you are planning on watching it, maybe go watch it before listening to this. And if you just want to hang out with us and you're not really gonna watch it, welcome anyway. We're not gonna kick you out.
I will say, scariness level, it's really, like, as far as, it was pretty easy for me. So, like, if sometimes, for instance, gore and stuff, like, too much stuff is maybe, I didn't think it was really that bad. I also watched it during the day.
There is quite a bit of blood.
There's quite a bit of like animal sacrifice.
Yeah, animal sacrifice type, that sort of thing. And like, there is some, slight light gore, I would say.
It's not, but I'm just saying it's more.
But it's not like that Soen Gook one that we watched.
No, it's not like a Project Wolf Hunting.
Yeah,
which you can also check out our review of that. So, like, Jessie, tell us what the plot of this movie is.
Okay, so the plot of the movie is a group of shamans are contacted by a rich family who are currently living in the United States because they have found out that they have a curse on their family because it's affecting a firstborn child, baby. And they contact this group because they've kind of figured out kind of the tie to it is this unmarked grave near the North Korean border. And they want them to unearth the grave and cremate the person so that they can be released from this curse and be able to like successfully like keep their, family line intact. And despite the protests of the main oldest shaman in the group, they decide that the money is definitely worth it to do this ritual. And they end up doing the ritual. And as everyone who has ever opened a grave has figured out it's not a good time, and things start to unravel very, very quickly.
Not a good time is the understatement.
Very not a good time.
What I sort of loved about it is, well, one, the movie does have like chapters, like it says like chapter 1 stuff, but like the movie has like distinct plots where it suddenly is like, actually the plot that you thought was the plot, that was just the inciting incident plot. We've got a way crazier plot.
Yeah, it unravels, and other things kind of like start to shape the story a bit more, and it's not just, you know, some random curse on this random family. You start to realize it's a lot more than what meets the eye, essentially.
Oh, it's like a 2-hour long movie. It was like the perfect length for like this sort of
2:14.
Yeah.
And I think it needed it.
I thought
do
it was
think
good.
that like some people might like find it a little bit like hard to watch because of length, but like it definitely needed it based on what happens. Because I think we were talking about this before, but we started recording. But there's like kind of 2 parts to this, and like those parts really need to be at the length they are to actually really go into the subject matter.
Yeah,
and it never really had big. When I say lull, it's not like, oh, nothing was happening. Like there was always things going forward, at least.
Absolutely.
Even if it was lull. I wouldn't even say it was slow at times, as far as like not heightened at times, but it was always moving forward. So
yeah, this is a very atmospheric horror. A lot of it is in the creepiness of just what is, and then like the creepiness of just like horrors of the past as well. So there's a lot of like kind of like slow moving, you know, like creeping of like what's going on, even though like some of the stuff like happens pretty fast. Like you very early on, it's like, this was a bad idea, we shouldn't have done this. Like it's pretty immediate, but like there's a lot of it that just like it's very slow and incestuous and like just like creeps into like the entire show.
Yeah, there's like an unsettling feeling over the entire film that like even never really goes away, and it works really well for the
I thought the sound crafting was really cool. Like the silence that was used, or the very little sound. Sometimes it wasn't absolute silence, but it would be just barely like the sound of any air. But like, as far as when they were like exhuming the grave or something, and then suddenly it was as if all the air, and they were outside, of course, but then it's like sound gone to the point where you're like, you're almost, did my sound cut out on my TV? But it's like that's the way they built up the, you know, the intensity of stuff. And I thought it was really neat how they did that.
Absolutely.
I will say it's like beautiful cinematography, but I was watching it on my tablet, and at times I did have to turn the brightness up on the old tablet to be like, what am I looking at here? Like,
I bet.
But that could have just been, you know, because I watched it in the middle of the afternoon, and this feels like
there were some dark spots on my TV, but
this feels like a movie you should be watching at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it also kind of feels like
if you want the full
theater
the
experience
full
too.
Yeah,
I think like being in a dark room with like a like kind of overpowering shot of this would be
would be very cool. Like this would be a very cool movie in theaters. Unfortunately, it was not playing in theaters anywhere near
but it
me,
might
so.
Because it is very popular currently. So
what was I about to say?
I wanted to talk about the different main characters. So like, you kind of start off with, you're first introduced to like kind of a two partner, like a team of kind of younger shamans, and you kind of have the main Kim going, like she's kind of like the main very traditional,
like scouters essentially too.
Yeah. And so as far as she sometimes does dress up in the very typical like Korean shaman thing, but she doesn't always, when she's like just talking to people about their problems. But younger, so that's kind of cool because often, anyway. So it was neat. And then you have, what's his name? I need to scroll up from all these comments. Oops.
Lee Do-hyun.
Lee Do-hyun. And so then you have him, and he kind of, it seems like assists her more than any, as far as like, but he definitely participates in the rituals and stuff, and even the scouting of things. And then they figure out pretty much
the strongman person of the group, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sort of reminded me a little bit of the sort of partnership in Sell Your Haunted House, where it's like he can handle being possessed, and so like that's his role, is like, if need be, he can possess these spirits, like be possessed by these spirits for, you know,
communication purposes.
And it even, like, at one point when she's talking about him and said, like, you know, the spirits chose him, like he had to give up his life because you find out he was an athlete, and he had to give that up because, you know, the spirits had chosen him as a vessel. And so I like that. Like, it was like a really fun sort of partnership that seemed very equal, but like, yeah. And so he would, you know, be banging the drums while she's doing the shamanic dancing and chanting and stuff. It was really cool. Now, I remember what I was going to say. I know very little about actual shamanism. And I wager most people who listen to us also know very little about shamanistic rituals. And I found this so fascinating to watch as sort of a, like, just very quick introduction to, like, obviously a very over-the-top version of what a shamanistic ritual could be, but it was really cool. Like, and then I feel like, obviously, if you were more versed in sort of Korean culture and you had already maybe gone to one before, you would know what all of the things that they're doing are. But it is really interesting as someone who's not familiar with all that to just be sort of, like, introduced to it. So I think that it's one of those things that really, like, sort of creates a curiosity in me. It makes me want to, like, go look up more just to, like, find out about it, because it's an interesting like culture that I'm, you know, unfamiliar with, and I love learning about other people. So I like when movies present you this opportunity, you know?
Absolutely.
And so then the second half of, like, the team becomes like, so there's these two partners, and then they kind of figure out, and they even say, like, does it have to be, like, do we have to really bring, pretty much they don't want to bring the older guys in, is what they kind of say amongst themselves. And it's like, we don't have any choice. And so they contact these two older guys, and one of them is, like, he runs a funeral parlor. He's kind of the main guy that goes, and he's kind of more exhuming the bodies, shrouding the bodies, kind of that whole process. He's also kind of more Christian side of things, as far as he kind of brings up Bible verses periodically. And then this other guy, kind of like the main actor, and he's been in a ton of stuff. Choi Min-sik, like, you know, he's everywhere. He is like a geomancy type guy, so, and with feng shui and how that relates to grave placement, and which, like, I've heard of geomancy before, I know a little bit about, but, like, grave placement, I didn't know that was even a thing that was of concern. So that was
sussing out the vibes of grave places, you know?
Towards the end of, like,
business,
the story, it really, like, helps out with things. And,
it was like,
because there's a lot of, like, specific things. But it's, like, really fun, especially with when you first get to that, like, grave, just to, like, see what he does, like, how he works, because he's the first one to kind of just, like, go up there, and he's just, like, silently standing at the grave and taking in where the scenery is and where location and stuff, and immediately clocks that this is not
this is
a thing we want to do, and like, he just knows it immediately, and everybody's like, no, but wait, like, this is a lot of money, we need to think about this.
And then what doesn't help is, like, a lot of money, and then the geomancy guy's daughter overseas is gonna have a wedding, and so, like, he knows that, but then they also use against him, it's like, the baby, the heir, you know, the heir baby, like,
the baby doesn't deserve this. Like, the baby doesn't deserve being cursed. The cute baby, I will be honest, cute baby.
It is very,
it was a very cute baby, like, legit, like, okay, you're fine, that's right.
But it was, and I really enjoyed his acting, as far as, like, he was never over the top with, like, even when he was noping out of there, it wasn't like, too abrupt. It seemed very realistic. Like, nope, this is how you do. No bad of us. No, I don't want to do this. And then he kind of gets dragged back in, essentially, and then they end up still doing that.
He has real, like, too old for this shit energy to him, too, where he's like, I don't know why I don't want to be a part of this. Like, why am I,
But I do like the dynamic of the crew as a whole, because it, like, even, like, we talked about this with the two youngest ones, but I think like, all four of them don't really step on each other's shoes, and, like, they know, they're, like, very distinct in where their position is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like they, like, obviously the younger pair is a little bit more money motivated and more business motivated, so they're, and, like, just, you know, younger, so they don't have the, you know, wealth of knowledge, but, like, it's never, like, it doesn't ever feel like they look down on each other too, which is, like, kind of interesting, especially in a culture that, like, the eldest would be, like, top of the line, but, like, none of the older guys could do what the girl is doing, because essentially out of the four of them, she's the strongest in the shamanistic power or whatever, like, so, and they never, like, say anything bad about it, you know, like, it's just, like, it's a very cool dynamic in that way, because it also just, like, she's just there. It's like, you don't have, like, the power of, like, she being female deterring everything that's going on too,
like, really younger nice female, like, it didn't become
it
like,
wasn't
kind of boomer versus
like,
younger. It wasn't anything like that.
Like, they respected her in her position.
When they were like, I don't want to do things, it was just purely because it's like, this is a really bad thing. Like, not because
it's like, it's just as a bad idea. I did like the, like, mid-film reveal that she actually has her grandmother as, like, a ghost who's with her all the time, and I was just like, oh shit, like, that's fun. The grandma's like, girl, you gotta get out of here.
Very strong female line too.
It's like, girl, you don't want to be here. Like, listen, it's grandma, I'm telling you, it's time to go.
Well,
like, grandma, you were right. This up. You were, Granny, not gonna lie, should have listened.
And then there's a secondary set of kind of the cavalry shaman ladies that her character brings in too, because, like, when she kind of figures out we're in deep shit, like,
and they're down
she calls,
a person too,
you know, she calls in a slightly older, and she's in everything.
Absolutely.
Everything.
And
I couldn't tell if the younger gal was like her kid or anything.
No, I think she was just, like, another girl, like,
just another younger
shaman. Yeah.
I like, but I also feel like more of, like, a, I don't know what the proper terminology would be, like a under the shaman learning shamanism type. Like,
and
you know,
it felt like, even if they weren't all, like, same family, as far as training under the same, like, shaman house, like, as far as the same shaman school or whatever, it seemed like the same.
And I mean, like, shamanism is very much, like, rooted a lot in, like, families. So, like, the entire family line is a shaman, and I would assume that, like, because it would be, like, very few families technically, they're very close in that regard.
The three of them had, like, a vibe like you would see in, like witchcraft films, like,
absolutely,
as a coven.
They were like,
because, like, you know, often like these witchcraft things are, like, done in three, and it's not quite this, but it's like, you know, the maiden, mother, and crone is, like, the traditional, like, witchcraft trio, and obviously this isn't the case, because it was just, like, teenager woman in her 20s and married pregnant lady. Like, that was the, you know, the trio. Like, but it really sort of, like, has the same sort of point of reference for people in three different stages of life, of, like, you know, the, you know, straight womanhood, I guess. And it was, I thought that was really cool. Like, I was like, oh, and I feel like that's, like, a good point of reference for people who might not understand shamanism, but have, like, read a book with a coven in it before. Like, you can be like, oh, okay, like, this is a similar concept that exists in multiple cultures.
And they run support for each other in the rituals they do, and because usually rituals are not Western, Eastern, and they're usually not done just individually. Like, it's usually a team
Mm-hmm.
effort to have a ritual.
And the female dynamic was just, like, much more different than any of the males, like, were exuding, too. So it was, like, interesting to kind of see that a little bit more, like, they were, like, even more, like, aggressive, essentially, and very much, like, this is what you need to know, this is what happened, this is, like, it, as opposed to kind of taking it all in and then, like, slowly doing things, so...
Yeah, they seemed very, very intimate with each other. Like, as far as, for instance, the original younger partners of shamans, and then the older guys, like, they even said at one point, like, we have a business relationship. I know we have a business relationship, and blah, 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 blah. So, like, very kind of professional level. But these ladies, it was very, like, no, they know intimately, like, how to get stuff done. And when it was
kind of like watching,
time,
like, your grandma in the kitchen. You know, and then, like, doling out the roles of, like, what everybody's doing, and, like, you cut this, and you cut this, and we have to do this, and this, and this, and just, like, knowing,
and then,
like, all the plan.
And then it's, like, and there was a sense of, like, real familiarity to them, like, when she said, hey, we gotta do this, and everyone immediately knew what they were doing. Like, there wasn't, like, an explanation. It's, like, they were, like, oh, immediately.
Everybody kind of just, like, fell in line and just did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because what that ended up being in that moment, in that scene, was when Lee Do-hyun's character, like, he was possessed, and so he kind of started acting kind of weird. And so they immediately, like, slid into how they handle
possession
spirits. Like, talking to spirits indirectly. It was really I have not seen that before. Like, that was really neat.
It was very cool. Like, it was... It was one of these things where, even if you're not that into horror, as I said, it's like looking at it as sort of a cultural experience into another culture's, like super, because every culture has, like, supernatural, like, myths and fables and things that, you know, people deal with. Like, you know, in Europe, you've got, like, the fae folk, and, like, you know, like, and then there's the, like, Native American superstitions and all that. And it's really interesting to see it played out.
Sure.
And then another thing that was, like, really interesting was, like, the difference between, like, Korean spiritual mythology and then immediately next to Japanese, like, mythology, where they acknowledge that both of them exist and are somehow different. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, like, I just really liked it from a cultural information point of view, even though, of course, it's, like, fictionalized and sensationalized, because it's also supposed to be a horror, like, possession, like, evil
It's gotta be jumpy, and, like,
you know,
things gotta happen.
Spoiler, there's an evil demon in it, like,
oh,
evil Japanese demon, that's the big twist halfway through. It's just, anyway, it's just fascinating.
I do want to say, before it was revealed, like, what the big dude was, I was racking my brain, because I'm like, I'm not saying I've watched just all these K-dramas, but I've watched enough supernatural ones that I was just like,
you're like,
I hadn't heard about giants. Like, I kept going, is giants a thing? I don't remember in passing anyone going, giants are a thing. And then when it was revealed, well, this is kind of what he... Oh, okay. I can kind of see that.
Yeah, he's like a fox sword demon, dirt demon, fire situation.
Metal fire.
Look, he's a lot of things, okay?
He's like really creepy, though.
Yeah, he's and actually, it's like I was like actually very curious to see who was playing him.
Who was?
Yeah.
And the answer is as an actor I'm not that familiar with, but he's been in a bunch of stuff, and his name is Kim Min-joon. And he's married to G-Dragon's sister.
Oh,
Kim Min-joon. I've seen him in I've seen him in a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
I've
he's
seen
like
him in
Island.
so much stuff.
He's the groom in episode 1 of Island.
Who gets killed in Island. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like I recognized him, but I couldn't place him. That's because he's always in like guest roles in literally everything.
Well, he was one of the main 3 guys in Was It Love, so I watched him in that, and he was really charming. Yeah, I've seen him around.
Yeah. So he's been working for.
Well, he does a lot of movies too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and lots of like variety shows as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's in like My Little Boy and Knowing Brothers. So.
Yeah. I assume he's tall if he's playing this role. Because my drama list page doesn't tell us his height, but
he's not like 20 foot tall or whatever.
But I thought he did a great job. It was, it's sort of like every time, like back to the Project Wolf Hunting, where I was like, who's playing the dude?
Yeah.
Which, wait, was it Yoo Hae-jin who was in that? This is like
everybody was in that again. It literally was. It was everyone. It's kind of like how Arthel Chronicles was, where it's just like everyone was there, and you're like,
it's like,
oh,
whoop, whoop, whoop.
Oh, blood
even
from
passing,
them. Okay,
ew. Yeah.
die.
I do want to say, shout out to Yoo Hae-jin, and he's the one that plays the funeral director type fella.
Yeah, he was great
in this film.
Mm-hmm.
His range, he has such good range of characters.
And listen, I didn't actually realize it was him. Like, he looked so different than he normally does. And I was I know who this guy is, but like, I can't play. Then I was like, oh shit, it's him. Mind.
Because he was serious.
Yeah.
He's friendly serious, but not goobery. Yeah. He does his goobery roles too.
I actually thought his character was really interesting because he was like, oh, I'm a Christian, I go to church and stuff. But like, he believes in all of, and like, no, not only believes in it, because here's the thing, it's like, they don't believe in this stuff. They know this stuff exists.
Yeah.
In like the world of this.
It's
like,
just part
and so
of
he's
life.
like, listen, I believe in Jesus, but I also know that this Japanese demon is here causing chaos and killing pigs. Like, you know what I mean? Like I might go to church, but also I'm gonna be part of this possession ritual.
And also, I love, there was a small moment where one of the other ones called him, and he was gambling.
Yeah,
and he was like, I'm in Bible study.
I'm in Bible study, and then it like he walks to a new room, and they're playing cards for money. Yeah. I was like, and I always love when movies add little moments like that just like tell you really all you need to know about these characters and their relationships. And it's like another one is like Kim Go-eun's character and Lee Do-hyun's character gets a call and he's at the gym. Yeah. And then it just cuts to her badly like trying to keep up in a like spin class.
Cycle, yeah.
And him being like, come on, man, just let's go.
Well, it also like just kind of lends to like, it's not just like shamanism, it's just it's their job. It's like just part of their lives. So it's like a doctor being called in for surgery, essentially. You know, like they get to do all the fun stuff. It's not like they're always like in this like mystical world or like doing things that are related to shamanism. It's not like they're always like creating chants or creating, things. Like they're just living their lives sometimes, and it is a job. And I think they do like kind of like specifically show that a bit more like in the very beginning when they're talking about the money, because it really is at the end of the day they still have to
gotta pay rent.
And so if they're not doing this all the time, they need bigger payouts. And if they know that they can do this, might as well do it, get the payout, and then
it's like they're in a very specialized dying industry.
Like
they need to take the jobs when they come. You know what I mean? Like, because
it's not like they have like a company who's like paying for their health insurance and like all
they're
this
freelance contractors. Okay,
like, don't know when the next like job is gonna come in.
They're self-employed, right? Yeah. Well, they can't qualify for insurance, right? No. They need these payouts.
But then also at the same time, like especially the two older guys, like they've been in the business for so long, and so there's this moment where the geomancer fella is talking finally with like one of the guys from the rich family, and the guy from the rich family is kind of acting a little uppity towards him. Like, well, don't you need to, like, earn my trust? And the guy's like, I don't need to be here. It's just like, we can stop this conversation. I can just leave. Like,
he's like, man, he had real,
I'm
like,
too old
1
for
week
this.
to retirement energy to him. Like, I can just go.
I don't need to give 2 weeks. I can just leave now.
And I felt there was like a really sort of fun scene when I think it was pretty much the same scene where you can tell that like this guy, like this rich guy, doesn't 100% believe, but is desperate, right? Because
he's desperate, and his family is also kind of pressuring this.
And like, you know, he doesn't want his son to die. Like, that is a very understandable, you will grasp at any straw. But then it's like the other guy's like, you know, talking as though like, oh, this guy's some kook who like, you know, is just stuck in this like made up mysticism. He's like, oh yeah, my daughter is like an aeroscience engineer
in Germany, like
in Germany, like this isn't some like, you know, bit that I'm doing that I've like, you know, like an elaborate lie. Like, no, like we are just normal people, and like, but this is just a skill that I have that in the world presented in this movie is real, despite if people want to believe it or not.
Sure.
I love that sort of setting, like where it's sort of like it reminds me of sort of like the Constantine setting, where it's like it doesn't actually matter if you believe that demons and Satan is real. He is.
It is
so,
in this movie. Like, there's no
in this universe. It is.
It's kind of like Island, as far as you know. It seems like there's kind of normal stuff, and then but if you encounter something, you're in trouble.
And it's not like everyone's gonna be paired up with this. It's just kind of like a once in a while thing. Like, it's not an everyday occurrence.
It's like, listen, most people ain't encountering demons all the time.
Yeah.
But like when nothing else has worked, you know.
But that also like plays. Go ahead.
No, all I was gonna say is these types of worlds. But if you run into a really messy murder, you should wonder if it was a crime.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
There should be
like, maybe that's it. Like, it plays into the stuff that starts to uncover about like this grave and what's happening. In that we're talking about the Japanese occupation of Korea, and so that like I think that like having this like grounded like area where like it is just like it's part of everything. Japanese occupation is still like a historical context that is happening. Like, it's affecting current Koreans as well. It's not like it's something that you can't see someone who lived through it. Like, you can't talk to them. It like is something, and I think that like also kind of grounds it like into like pulling that into this is just like very much like what an actual real thing, like a real like tie-in with this like supernatural stuff, and being because of that really horrific like part of their past.
Yeah. In a fun little turn of events that I just discovered while looking up the director to see what his other work was, I feel like demons might be his special interest.
Yeah.
A bit of an obsession, because he hasn't actually made that much stuff, but literally everything he's made is about demonic possession. And I'm not, it's not like exaggerating.
Hey, if you do it well, go for it, man.
So he wrote the show with Taekyon, House of the Disappeared, where Taekyon plays a priest.
Yep.
About
it. Yeah.
Shit. Obviously he was this, and then he's written and directed not just Exhuma. He wrote Svaha, the Sixth Finger, which is on Netflix, which is another like really bizarre sort of like same vibe as this one entirely. And then he also wrote and directed The Priests, which is, you guessed it, about exorcists.
Yeah, so that's what, like the tie-in with the Christianity as well. Like, that's I think why you see it present.
Because I feel like they're sort of like Catholicism specifically, less so any sort of Protestantism, because they don't really do the demon thing there. But like in Catholicism,
if they do, it's way different.
Oh yeah, it's just like
it's way different.
A real performative. Let's be honest. Like, there's a tie-in there. Like, exorcisms is like it's such a popular bit, you know? Like, it's a fun bit. Okay, and then he also did the 12th Assistant Deacon, which was, I believe, like a short film that then turned into The Priests that he like redid to as a full length film. But like clearly he's got a hyper fixation on demonic possessions.
Right, what you know, I guess. You know,
it's just like, you know what? Good for him. You know what I mean?
Like, maybe it's possible that he has shamanism in his like family as well. So it's just like that's why it's a
who knows
common interest. I don't know.
I actually really liked Svaha, so that's really interesting that he's the same director. I thought that was a good movie. That if you like this movie, you'll probably like that movie.
Probably.
Like, you know what I mean?
If you're also looking for another movie that I think like if you want to watch after this, or like you're trying to gauge if you're gonna like this, if you watch The Wailing from like 2016, absolutely you're gonna like this. Like I really feel like there's like only gonna be a handful of people who don't like the other one. Like I think like both of them are like solidly you would pair this together to give to someone.
The
like,
vibes,
easily.
The same
the vibes. It's the same like type of thing. There's like exorcism and shamanism and that sort of thing. It's a different like route, and it's not just like following a shaman, it's following a grieving father, but like the absolutely same vibe, same atmosphericness of it, the same length, the same like types of horror that is present in this. It's like very much tied together.
I would say, I don't have this huge depth of things that I've watched, but I would say the drama Possessed I thought one of the characters is gifted with shamanism, and she kind of fights against it, and she's kind of from a line of there is a bit more, but tonally similar, very very dark. I thought it was very very good, but it does kind of go into the shamanism stuff a little bit with at least her side of things. So.
I will say this one, like Exhuma, more approachable as someone new to the genre than Svaha is. Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Svaha is real, like how the weird stuff that happens. It's weirder in that one.
Yeah, I think Svaha is like much more horror. Than this is. Like, this is horror, but it's just because of what's happening. Like, essentially, like it's not just like that.
Again, I thought it was kind of like in level 1 of horror, like solidly horror, some gore, whatever. But like, I did think it was very approachable, and it wasn't. I was going into this because I had heard, I had seen comments about like, oh, this thing was so scary, so scary. So like, I was very prepared for if I had to nope out, I was prepared if I needed to nope. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, now as far as if I had watched it like 2 a.m., I might have like struggled more.
It was like going to last night, but then I fell asleep. So like I watched it in the afternoon.
I just really didn't want to watch it and then go right to sleep and then have a nightmare just because I timed it wrong.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, you didn't know.
Don't want to do that.
Yeah. Like for anyone who's unaware, in terms of like right now, it goes in age order from like what we can handle, like strength horror wise. Like Jessie is like steel, I'm like aluminum, and Sky is just a soft linen blanket.
I'm a wood. Like I'm getting there.
She's getting there. But you're very introductory.
Yeah,
we're getting you.
Yeah, we're indoctrinating you. We're frog.
But you do have limits.
For instance,
like stuff like Project Wolf Hunting. I'm like, nah, I'm not picking that up. Like, I'm just not gonna have a good time. Like, I'm just not gonna.
And that one's another one that's like, it's not scary, but the visuals are so upsetting. Like, you'd be like,
no.
But the visuals of this are only mildly upsetting. I will say, like, for people who can't handle like animal corpses,
yes,
which in my real life not interested in being a part of, but you will see animal corpses. So keep that in mind. And there's
like as far as the demise of people, it's not like something happens and gushing in your face, hitting the camera. It's nothing that.
It's kind of just more like forcing you to like be present with the demise of society, essentially, of what had happened in the past. And that, like, it's such a terrible point in history that it has created this level of
malevolence.
And it's still permanent. The earth, it's like still like it's everywhere. It's like always on, like, in the minds of like Koreans, essentially. And like it's like represented that way in like all the like the different burial plots that they kind of talk about in the movie and stuff. So
and there's sort of like there's like just like a sense of like the past sort of colliding with the present is like the main crux of the whole thing. So it's not just like, oh, demons out of nowhere. Like, it's like, no, this is a created demon from like the misdeeds of the past. Like, it's
Now, what I do want to emphasize, 2 things about this movie. It is plot driven rather than super character driven. So again, as far as what we know about these characters, it is very show as we go, which I thought, which I enjoyed, and I think for movies is great because like
and also you don't like you don't need a backstory.
You don't need it, and
people.
Also this cast is like superb in their acting skills that you're able to figure out what type of people they are with just the little amount you are given. You don't need to have that background handed to you.
Right. And I had a second point, but I totally just forgot it.
Listen. It's
no.
We understand.
No, you're good. It was it pertained to it's kind of like the Silent Sea in the fact that like you might have some flashbacks, you might have like kind of quickly, and then some of it's vague. There's a lot of vagueness as far as like where did this demon truly come from? How was it made? There's just a lot of flashes. It
lets you fill in the blanks yourself. Like you can,
so like
it gives you enough to give you the general idea, but it doesn't need to go to specifics.
Yeah.
And some people aren't cool with that, but the reality is movies, that is the way movies typically
You're not reading a textbook that's going to give you the, rundown of how to create your own evil.
You're also just not going to be like handed
demon.
Korean history.
No.
Like,
You can Google it if
not
you are
the point
curious.
Of the movie. Like,
the point of the movie is to tell a gripping tale of fighting a evil demon. Like, it's not...
Though I will say, like, I mean, the demon dude eventually says out loud, "I am the embodiment of fear." Like, I mean,
no.
Some of it is a little laid before, but as far as like, I know there are probably some people that think like, some people think it's super confusing. I think even the Japanese history aspect, the Japanese Korean history aspect, all these things, if you take even just what you're given and you didn't know that much, you just have to accept the vagueness and move on. You really can. It's fine. Like, and so that's all. That was all I was going to say as far as that's the type it is. It's not going to take you by the hand and sit you down and go, this is how this evil demon was created by this person this way. It's flashes. It's vague. Then you even have later on, you have flashes from all the main characters. You don't know if they're looking at the past or the future, or if it's real, or if they're just having a hallucination pertaining to the demon. You have no idea. And are they going to revisit that? Nope. Like, you're just going to... And even at the end, is that a happy ending? Is it kind of unsettling? A little bit.
Or is
like,
it just the way that life is? Like, it's still going to be there. Whether they defeat any sort of demon or not, it's not going to change the fact that these things happened. Like, this really, terribleness happened, and it's just gonna always just kind of be there. And what that level of being there is I guess dependent upon how you go on in the future and what you do.
We're getting so philosophical.
I know
about this demon exorcism film.
Well, but some people might look at it and go like, "Oh, that was a happy ending." I mean, it's like, I guess if you want to say it that way, but like, to me, it was vaguely unsettling. It's like, PTSD happened. Like,
it's vaguely unsettling, but like, just like life is unsettling too, and like, I think that ties back to like, then they finish their job. They're back to like doing the other things that they do in life, and it's not. They're not superheroes that like defeated some evil thing and it stopped everything, and now like everything's
they're contract workers.
Yeah, and they're only like a certain, like you can't, like, there's no way to stop. I think it's like there's no way to stop, full stop, all this evil. It's just not going to happen. It's just going to, it kind of take it case by case, essentially.
And you can't erase all the atrocities of history. So, like, those things did exist. It's there.
So here we are. Like, it sucks that maybe you didn't directly, do anything to create that, but that doesn't mean that it's still not a thing that's, like, going to create some sort of issue for you in the present.
No.
I will say also, not that it was funny, but I felt kind of bad for the main team of 4 exorcist type people. Like, they didn't do anything. I mean, they did exhume all these things, but as far as they did not open the coffin and somebody else did, it was like, dang nabbit, like someone else got greedy and then really caused everything. Like
I'm working with idiots.
But see, at the same time, what I loved about that actual plot is that after they defeat the old man's ghost or whatever, it turns out that didn't actually matter anyway. Like, that was, like, that whole thing that they went through didn't matter because the other coffin was the actual problem.
Yeah.
And, like, so it's like the demon that was still buried up there with the snake that gets killed and all that.
No.
That was the actual problem.
Ooh, yeah.
So, like,
I felt really bad for that gravedigger guy. Felt really bad.
We never actually found out the fate of that gravedigger guy. I'm assuming he got. We're like, I got better. Like we don't know. He might be dead, but I'm like, maybe you shouldn't just kill snakes. You aren't doing anything to you. Some weird lady-faced snake.
Yeah. Let the lady snake be. It's fine.
Let that lady snake just do what it's doing. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like on Jerry's song. Just don't mess with stuff.
Yeah, just like
let stuff be.
Just stop.
If there's a tower of rocks that you didn't build, just leave.
Just leave it, man.
Just fine.
just relax, dude.
But if you do unearth a coffin that is buried vertically and it's really, really tall.
Yeah, no. Put it back. Put that thing back where it came from, north of the
and salt the earth and go away.
Throw that glutinous rice around and get the fuck out. Throw some red beans over. Like, nah, we ain't doing this shit. Like, you found a vertical, like, 9-foot coffin covered in barbed wire? Don't dig that shit out.
Just leave it.
It's like every time
that like nobody knows why it's like that. Like nobody knows. Then just leave it.
You're supposed to know.
You know what? You can leave it, and then you can still go do research without touching it. Go do research.
It's like every time you read a news story about like, oh, we found a sarcophagus that no one's ever found in Egypt, and we're going to open it. I'm like, don't fucking open the sarcophagus. Like, put
it hasn't been time by now. Just like leave it. Like there's no. We know enough. We know enough.
We know enough. We don't need to know. It's like, oh, this sarcophagus with a bunch of, like, curses to whomever opens it. Don't open it.
Just don't.
Just leave it.
What's gonna hurt you for not, like, touching it? Like, nothing. Not a single thing.
Would you want someone to dig you up and open your coffin and put your bones on display? No. Leave them. Just leave them. We sound like we're huge believers in the occult right now.
But just don't screw with stuff. I mean, it's really not that.
I'm just more like, even if it's not real, what is the harm in not, like, doing stuff to, like, aggravate it?
Really? Like, there's no need.
At this point, like, yes, of course, like, just regular humans are bad enough. Like, supernatural stuff is, like, whatever, because, like, humans are just, like, terrible. But, like, still... We don't need it. It's extra work. Just, like, let it go. Like,
just let it. Take a little picture.
Yeah.
Go away.
Take a photo. Be like, cool. We found it. Let's bury this shit back up. Like, seal the tomb back up. Yeah. We don't.
But if you come across a nameless grave,
don't.
Maybe like.
Nope.
put some flowers on it, or like, you know,
Put
make
some
sure it
flowers
looks
on it.
nice.
Yeah,
If like
give it
it's
a
Pour some
little, like,
soju. Like,
give it a
I'd
little,
be like,
little
hey.
cross, namaste, move on, you know.
a
like,
coin, whatever.
A little, a rip, you know, pour one out for your for like the dead homie. Move on, my friends. We don't need to be playing these games. Okay?
We've watched the Untamed Dagnabbit. We know these things.
We don't need this in our life. Okay? Just move on. Move on. Great movie though. Like,
It is.
A+.
Oh, I do want to, like, I found some stuff online that I thought was like really interesting about this, because the movie isn't doing very well right now. It's like crazy right now. But so this right now is the highest grossing Korean film of 2024. Like,
Wow.
out of the entire world. Like, that's just like, because it's like gained so much in popularity, that it is also like the highest rated and most successful Korean film in both Vietnam and Indonesia. Like,
wow. So it's
like gotten that popular.
I feel like there's
also,
like probably a lot of overlap between like, you know, sort of like mythological and superstitions.
Absolutely.
And stuff.
And like,
So,
when we were on, like, we were looking at MDL comments, which is not really advisable, and, you know, take it a grain of salt. But I did see a lot of people were like, oh, this is very much like, you know, some things that you see in Hong Kong, like mythology, that sort of thing. So it does, I think it is got a kind of like a very like worldly, like kind of like premise of it. But like the biggest thing I wanted to say is that the director said that they used a large number of real scenes and real props for like most of the filming, and tried not to use studios, and avoided CG effects in post-production. This is what he said about it. I tried to actually film the background and objects, avoiding CG whenever possible. We took the photos as painstakingly as possible without building a set. And for things like ghost photos, the actual actors wore makeup for 6 hours and then took blurry photos on purpose.
Oh, that's
which
cool.
I think is really cool. Like, especially because
really cool.
I'm a prop person. That's what I do. It's like 9 to 5, but like I really like when like regular effects are like used as opposed to doing something digitally, because it just like it gives it like a little bit more. And I think it like obviously gave a lot more because you both talked about the animals that you see, and they're real. Like, so like if you like it had been like faked a little bit more, and like some things like had been faked, I think it would have really like not kept up the realness of this as well. Like, and a lot of like atmosphere was like coming from the real atmosphere of wherever they're shooting it.
That's really cool. I also read it. I also read an interview from him about his next project. And at first it seems like he's moving to a new genre, but I'll just read you his little thing.
He won't do that to us.
He wants to make a vampire movie next. So you're thinking, is he going to like, you know, is he finally moving on? Here's a little quote from him. I'm writing in my brain every day something very, very strange. I want to make a vampire movie in Korea set against the backdrop of the Greek-Russian Orthodox Church.
I love this so much. New favorite director.
You know what, sir? You know what? Listen, I love his hyperfixation. I support everything.
And I think it might actually happen, because this film is doing so well that like he'll now have a little bit more budget and power behind being able to do a lot more stuff, which is exciting.
Yeah. And also he said, his quote about Exhuma said, I made a film that I thought was just for genre fanatics, so it seems I failed in that respect. That's really good. That's such a humble brag right there. Like, he's just like, listen, I was just making it for my fellow horror, but everyone seems to like it, so like, whatever. I like his energy. All right,
I do too.
I like your energy, my guy.
One thing I suddenly remembered was, so there's some symbolism about Japan and Korea's like countries and animals like that represent them and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so aside from just, they kind of like vaguely hint towards it, but then just to emphasize, they do explicitly say stuff at some point. So, like, I think international audience-wise, I think some of it's pretty easy, because it will be like,
yeah,
Korea is recognized, usually
it's
indicated
kind of
by a tiger.
Of, like, good enough for younger audiences who probably didn't study well, like...
Right.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, like, you can gather...
You can fill in the pieces. Like, you
but
can also just
like,
look stuff up. Like,
yeah, you can look it up after a while. You'll be like,
okay,
yeah, I'm gonna look at that later, and then get a grasp of it.
Have a better, like, a post-movie appreciation for, like, things that this movie is interested in me. What we're trying to say is, be interested in things and look up stuff.
Well, and the same thing about the feng shui stuff and all that. It's like, as far as the elements and having opposites and how they react with each other and stuff, like, that is a thing. So, like, if you're interested in that, go check out how that's been around for a very, very long time. Yeah, it's kind of cool that they threw it in there.
Mm-hmm. Such a solid movie. Solid movie.
Like, if you like this genre, you're gonna like this movie. If you don't like this genre, why did you start watching it? It was very clear about what genre it was.
I don't know why you did that to yourself either. So,
well, like we saw a comment asking if there was any romance. No, that is not
zero. Literally,
really like the boy. He's not even like the main guy.
He's second.
It's
does he do a really good job? He does.
He's excellent. He's excellent, but he's definitely like a side character. It's the two old men and the lady. Okay, that's basically what you're getting. Two old men, a lady, and a demon. The newest comedy from. Now
I just now imagine Korea SNL parody of Exhuma would be so funny.
It would be pretty good. So this has been our episode on Exhuma. You should check it out on Shudder, or if you want to pay more on Viki for rent. But I'm sure, like, next year it'll be free. That's how it goes.
Honestly, it's probably gonna show up everywhere. And once Shudder gets, their whatever rights they have, it releases, and you can buy it. Yeah.
But if you like horror, you should check out Shudder. We're not paid by Shudder. We're not paid by anyone.
But Shudder, hit me up. I'm on your site all the time.
The only people we are paid by is our incredible patrons over at patreon.com/certified Noonas, our found family. We love them.
Heart.
The best. Heart. And if you want to join us there and support this podcast, you can do so, and we'd really appreciate it. But if you want to listen to more of this podcast, because you're like, I need to decide if I want to support. If I want to send $2 a month to this podcast, you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. All of our episodes are also on YouTube. And of course, if you want time codes and links, and even if you just want to listen to it there, you can do that all on our website, certifiednoonas.com. We have all the stuff there. Just time codes, episodes, links, whatever you need. So that's basically it. We hope you have a great week. Hope you're enjoying the beginning of July. Take care of yourself. Do that mask thing that we keep harping on every time.
Drink lots of water, especially when you're
stay hydrated. Stay
very
hydrated,
hot for a lot
friends.
of places.
And while you're staying hydrated, maybe cool off with a chilly Asian horror movie on Shudder. We're not sponsored. # not sponsored.
That's right.
# would love to be sponsored. Yeah.
Shudder, call us. Anyways, this has been The Hit List. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.